and welcome again to another marketing strategy session. We are actually talking, we're in a capacity that's different than what we usually talk about. We usually talk about marketing, but we're going to talk about business right now. And we have Shayna Boston on with us, and we're going to talk about business as it relates to your local government, as it relates to, your business in the community. So Shayna, thanks for coming on and spending a little time with me.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for having me on.
Cool. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about you first, about, where you're from, your business experience. I mean, you've had a few different hats when it comes to business that can help people know why you're the expert to talk about how they can look at business from their vantage point.
Yes. Well, thanks again, Jeff. My name is Shayna Boston. I am from the great city of Swainsboro, Georgia, which is a small rural town in Southeast Georgia. And I am a business entrepreneur, and I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have about 3 businesses and a nonprofit. So one of the businesses I have is the main one, which is Boston First Administrative Management Services. We are a virtual assisting firm who serve and support small business owners and busy professionals with their administrative tasks. So what does that mean? That means that, entrepreneurs are busy, politicians are busy moms are busy, but there's some of those administrative things that keep your business going, and you just don't have time to do it. And that's what we come in. We are your right hand in business. We handle all of those administrative things virtually for you, so that you're not handling the cost of housing an employee and all those fees that come with having an in-house employee. So we handle all of those things virtually. And the cool thing about us is that I come from behind the computer. A lot of my clients are, like I said, busy professionals who are politicians or who are busy, important people in the world. So oftentimes I'm needed to come behind them and handle them. So one of my hashtags that I use is the handler, and also the behind the scenes queen, because a lot of the things that I do behind the scenes, you guys as consumers or fans of my clients, that's what you see. That's what I help them put out. So their social media presence, their administrative things that helps their business roll. That's what I do. And then the other business is Boston First Events. Yes, I am an event planner also. So I plan weddings, I plan conferences and things of that nature. And you'll see how dealing with busy entrepreneurs, how event planning go hand in hand. So that's kind of how I cross over when necessary for my clients. And then the other business is that's on hiatus now. But one of the things that I created when I moved back to Swainsboro was Boston First Staffing Agency. I come from the staffing agency world. That's how I got a lot of my expertise in dealing with in the administrative field, working with 500 Fortune 500 companies, small and large corporations, private owned, woman owned, you name it, I've pretty much done it. And so I wanted to give back as a method of, hey, you don't need a degree to do these jobs. You don't need some of the things. You just need character, personality, and some skill set. So I wanted to encourage women or encourage men who were, struggling and figuring out what can I do next. So I always wanted to introduce that service as an administrative professional, but also other temporary or permanent positions. And then the last thing was Fearlessly Forward, and which is my nonprofit organization, which is focused on training and the development of our next leaders, of our entrepreneurs. I'm from a small town in Swainsboro where we don't get a lot of training on entrepreneurs and those people who will fit those seats for government. We're more employee driven and followers. So I'm trying to encourage all of the leaders, all the diamonds in the rough to stand up. And that's what that nonprofit agency will do. Will help train them, guide them. If they want to become entrepreneurs, we'll have a fast track program for them to obtain. And then also hopefully to be a part of our Incubator program, where they can come in and, get their first offices and, at a low income so that they can, manage their business. So I've got those 3-4 businesses and nonprofits that keep me busy, but it's fun. I love what I'm doing, and I love helping other people see their vision come true.
Oh, that's big. I mean, I know the virtual assistant thing, the incubator program. I mean, isn't that something that's fairly new to the Swainsboro area that you're bringing to actually help the businesses and entrepreneurs in that area?
Yes, it will be very, very new. Nothing has been done like that down here. And from my research and just being around people who want more and seeing what resources are available for them, there aren't any. Even I had to go outside of Swainsboro to get the education that I have there and the experience, but they shouldn't have to. I want to be able to bring those resources and experiences home with someone they can relate to and someone they can understand and kind of connect the story to, that if I can do it, they can do it too.
Okay, and that makes sense. Now, tell me, since you worked in a lot of capacities, the staffing company, you're working with Fortune 500 companies, you know, the virtual assistants, you're working with a variety of different companies. The incubator, you're working with small businesses. How do the big businesses and small businesses cohabitate in a town, a small town, or just a local area? Because we look a lot of times at these big businesses and what they're doing, but how is it affecting the small businesses? How are they actually, you know, how does it affect them?
Well, it can be bad. Oftentimes big businesses come in with all of the money, all of the resources that the small businesses are trying to obtain. So, you know, it can be detrimental, but there is a solution, I believe. I believe if they have a conversation, if they have a sit down and figure out what it is that we want to do with our city so that we can maintain the integrity of our small businesses and then also accommodate some of our larger corporations. So we have to, have that conversation and see what industries they are and see, and it's going to be different city by city because, different interests lie with different constituents in those cities. So, but you got to be open to communication first. I wouldn't like, Home Depot coming in on, one of our mom and pops, unbeknownst to them, but having that conversation, how do we work together? How do we coexist, or do we not? But we just have to have the conversation about it.
That makes sense. Yeah, because a lot of times I know when we listen and we say, oh, Amazon's coming to town, and we look and we say, oh, Walmart's coming to town, and this and that. Everybody's excited.
Yeah.
But then there's somebody that's been there for 20 years that's been servicing the area. And now all of a sudden they can't compete. And you start looking around and all the businesses you were so used to are gone now. And then all of a sudden your community starts to change. Now those businesses are like, we don't want this type of person in our store. We want to change the whole, whole area to fit what our profit shares would be.
Right.
Now I'm talking corporate. I've been in corporate a long time, so I'm talking corporate. But they're looking at, okay, our bottom line, this is our target audience. And it might not look like the demographic that's currently in place. Right. A lot of people call it genification. But basically what they do is they come in, they set up shop, and then all of a sudden they move out the people that live there because it doesn't fit their basic target audience, and they move in people that fit their target audience. But what happens to the people that had to move out? And that's something that a lot of people don't think about when they start praising the fact that these big brands come. And then also, Shayna, I need to get off the soapbox. But then also, when you talk about employment, when you're talking about employment, a lot of these bigger organizations aren't hiring locally. They're bringing in their employees.
Right.
And if you're in a community that has lower education, they just say, well, you don't qualify because you don't have this type of education. Now you've got big business in your neighborhood, but they're not hiring your neighborhood. So, I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
I think you're right. And that happens every day. And definitely a small town like Swainsboro could very well fall victim to those same things. But again, you have to involve the people. And that's where I'm preaching all the time. You have to get involved. You have to know what's going on. You have to get a seat at the table, because those things wouldn't be able to pass us, because we are the customers, the citizens. We're paying the taxes. We're, supporting these businesses that come in. So they must run it through us. So I encourage people who are just sitting by the wayside and only complaining to become a part of the solution. Get a seat at the table. And if you don't know, contact your city councilman, contact your county commissioner. But we can no longer wait and be silent. So we must speak up. So that's what I say to that. We've got to be open to the conversation and be in the room, because that's that's where we're lacking at, especially in small towns that become, complacent and not interested and think that things will always be as they were. And I'm out here screaming and yelling to these people. No, it can't be. It can be exactly how we want to be, how we want to see it. But we have to be a part of the process in order for that to come to fruition.
And that makes sense. And you talk about how you involve your city council. How does business, community, and actual government all tie together? Because I don't think a lot of people in the community actually know how that works.
Oh, it's all connected. It's all connected. With the businesses, starting with the business license. They got to get a business license. They got to get incorporated. They have to, depending on if they have a brick and mortar, if they have to worry about sewage and water and things of that nature. It's a lot to it that goes in it, even before you open the doors. So your connection with your city government and what you're able to negotiate, because people forget that you're still open to negotiation on some things, because you got to look at it. A city is a business, and so are you. So you got to come to the table and say, hey, how can we make these situations work for ourselves? So they are so connected, not even just the government, the Chamber of Commerce or government, they're all connected. And they all help each other out. So if there's a great relationship between the business owners and the city and also the Chamber of Commerce, we got our checks and balances in place. They have their specific agencies that know what the numbers on are, the population that they can feed to business owners, what demographics we have. Those are numbers that drive businesses. And also with the Chamber of Commerce on the industry part and on the other sides of all sides of business. So they are all connected, and you need to be in great relationship with your local government, because you may be paying too much, or you could be paying less, or you could have worked a better deal that would have been beneficial for the city and your business. So yes, they are completely connected. You can't do one without the other, successfully, in my opinion.
Okay. And then as far as with the local, residents, can they get involved to say, we want this type of business in our community, or we don't want this type of business in our community? Or do they just basically, is it like what we see on TV where, you got big pharma, big tech, big whoever, and they're paying under the table, and all of a sudden the politician's like, this is going to be in the neighborhood whether you like it or not. Right. I mean, how much control does the local, residents really have?
Well, and I've experienced exactly what you've described, but it comes from a lack of knowledge, even from the city council, even the people that we have elected. We assume that they know business, and they don't. So you have to first, I always call it the chain of command. Who is your representative? So you need to start with your city council person first. What do they know? How can they help leverage situations or give you information that can help you better make these decisions? So they work for us. You got to remember, they are a part of the business too. The city councilman, your county commissioners, they're like employees of the city that work for us. So we have to start making people do their job. But we have to also know what the chain of command is, what's proper protocol to make these changes happen. And people, we're going to listen to the citizens. They elected us. They put us here. They're paying us. So if we come in numbers, they have no choice. People have the elected officials, the city has no choice but to listen because they are a direct consumer.
Okay. And speaking of listening, I know that you're going around town and listening actually to the people in the businesses. And we're going to go ahead and pull the cat out the bag. Hopefully no cat owners are like, pull the cat out the bag. But we're going to pull the cat out the bag. You are running for mayor of Swainsboro. So what are your plans? I mean, you're running for mayor. Now they know about where you are when it comes to businesses. So we wanted to go ahead and let you see what Shayna's all about business before we start having you, basically skew your view of this presentation or this podcast thinking, oh, well, she's running for mayor. She's just doing these talking points. No, we want you to get to know Shayna in a business aspect. And now we'll talk about the fact that you're running for mayor of Swainsboro. Tell us more about that.
Yes, I'm so excited to be running for the mayor of Swainsboro. That has been a dream since childhood. When I was in 7th grade, we were blessed to have to learn more about our local government. And we had to elect our city council and we had to elect the mayor. And I became the mayor of 7th grade. I'll never forget it. And at that point, I realized, I could possibly be the mayor of my city. Now, it seems far-fetched at the time, but I've always been a big dreamer. Dreamer. But as life would have it, things had to be put to the side and other things came into play. And so, my career and my businesses and then life, brought me back to Swainsboro, where I had to take ownership of my father's house and my mother's house and run their household. And I was finally able to run my business full time. So I've been a full-time entrepreneur for the last 5 years, running those businesses. And managing a household, I didn't know that I could, but it challenges you, it stretches you, and it lets you know that you can do anything. And so with that, as I, became involved with the local nonprofit organizations and of course, creating my own, I became very clear to what some of the issues were. And those were the same issues that I knew before I left, but I left Swainsboro in a better place than I came back to. And that was disheartening. Yeah, that was disheartening. I want my son, who's 10, who's being raised here now, to have some of the advantages that I've had. Rural Georgia, rural America sometimes gets the short handle of the stick where, you have people in position who are comfortable, who have everything that they need. But because Swainsboro is 63% African American, it is a complete difference on the other side of town. And we need to bridge that gap. And that's what I want to do. Just like in business, we got to listen to the numbers. 63% African-American. That tells me that's where I need to give my attention. That's where the money is. That's where our source of re-energizing this city is. But we've got to invest in them. We've got to utilize those resources that are available for underprivileged and underserved communities. And because of the pandemic, and President Biden, we have those resources available, but they don't know anything about them. They don't know anything about them. So it goes back to that education piece I was talking about in business. It all is connected to what do you know? What do you know about your government? Do you know what resources are available? And that's what I want to do, Jeff, is really bridge that gap and unify our city, because we're heavily still in a black and white stage in this town, but we have so many things in common that then we do have differences. And that's what I've been showing since I've been back. I've, white friends, black friends, Chinese friends, Native American friends, Asian friends. I'm everybody's friend. And you have to be, because that is how we're going to grow. I use the hashtag for my campaign, Together We Can, because I believe, downplaying my faith having woman. And that's what he's been telling me. We've been separated and divided so long. Only this time, you got to do it together, and you've got to find a way. And with his help, we've been doing that. We've been bridging the gap. We've been showing people, hey, we want the same thing you do. We want the
Yeah.
same thing. So why not work together to make that happen? So I'm excited to run for the next mayor of Swainsboro. And I believe that I will win. And we're going to be able to see those changes and be the changes that we want to see here in Swainsboro, Georgia.
Hey, that is so wonderful. I am so excited for you. And everyone, I mean, look, she's here to listen to what you have to say. So reach out to her, because the old saying, a closed mouth doesn't get fed. You can't make change if you just sit back and not say anything, or say anything around your table, but never let it be known to some people that can make a difference and make some change. So she's there to listen. Like she said, who are you? The handler.
That's
The
right.
behind the scenes queen.
That's it.
The one to make things happen. So, reach out to her. It's going to be so important for the community. Thank you so much, Shayna, for coming on and, sharing your insights, sharing your journey, and the opportunities that you're bringing to Swainsboro.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. And you guys can reach out to me at www.shaynaboston.com. That's ShaynABoston. And follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Shayna Boston. Thank you, Jeff.